So today we're continuing the series Confessions. I can remember many moments in my life in which someone voiced a struggle, a pain point, something that they were going through that was difficult, that I resonated with and I struggled with personally. And even though nothing in my life changed in that exact moment, all of a sudden I felt a sense of relief and a sense of progress because I knew I wasn't the only one. So in this series, we want to voice what are the things that we struggle with personally that you may connect with as well as a way to move forward together. Today, we're in part 2 of our series, Confessions.
Welcome, you're listening to the Leading Hope Podcast. My name is VJ Williams, here with my friend and pastor Kevin Jack. Thank you for joining us, taking time out of your busy day to become a better leader. If you're new, we release a new episode every Wednesday. Just subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Get that downloaded every Wednesday morning. Also share this with a friend on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and rate and review or both on Apple Podcasts. A few extra minutes will absolutely help get this in the hands of so many more leaders just like you, trying to get better like us. And then visit leadinghope.online to get updates. Find out more about the Leading Hope community. Like Kevin said, we are in episode or session, as we heard from last week, 193 of our Confessions series. You've titled this, Something is Always Wrong.
Always.
Always. There's a theme going here. In
Yeah.
this. Always.
Yeah, last week it was I always feel behind.
Yeah, and now something is always wrong.
Yeah, so I want
What is wrong?
You want to go through it right now?
That's what it's for.
I wanted to, so like last week, we touched on this idea of like part of the reason why we feel behind continuously, constantly, is because, hey, there's, as we see the patterns ahead, as we see these other issues, things aren't working out. But today I wanted to zero in on that idea of like, hey, this is part of what causes that.
Yeah.
The fact that something is always wrong.
Yeah.
And this isn't just like, this is an organization. I joked about this last week, but like you are well aware of this, that Bethany and I, we avoid home maintenance at all costs. And I don't mean we're trying to save cost. I mean, like, if it involves picking something up and fixing it, we're gonna steer as far clear of that as we possibly can, because we've had moments in our lives in which we tried to fix things and we just made problems significantly worse in those moments.
I feel like I could comment, but I don't think it would be helpful. So I won't.
That's a fantastic response.
Yeah, good.
So we've been gifted people in our lives, Louis, VJ, others, who know how to fix stuff from time to time.
Yeah, from time to time.
That before we pick it up and electrocute ourselves or do heavy damage in our life. And in the in the same way, like in leadership, something is always wrong. Like there just is.
Preach.
And I had a...
Hey, you know why, though?
We're going to get into it.
Podcast way back originally, like I'm talking 20 episodes in.
Yep.
Why are leaders?
You're there to solve problems.
Leaders there to solve problems.
So we're gonna like head deeper into this, but I just wanted to share, like one of the conversations I was having with a staff member the other day, because we were going through a couple significant things.
Yeah.
Like we were just dealing with them. Some of them were like leadership issues. Some of the others were pastoral issues. So some of them were designing systems and creating culture. Others were helping people out of crisis. And my comment to them is said, like, in 18 years of ministry, there is always something, and it's never too much that you can't handle it.
Yeah.
You may tell yourself you can't handle it, but that's not true. It is never too much that you can't handle it. And if there's ever been a day where I just went, everything is going well, I fully acknowledge that will not be the case tomorrow.
So good.
If I ever have a day that I walk out and I just go, man, everything's smooth.
Yeah, I'll just say this in my mind too, is like we always think everything has to get done today, and we realize that we just don't know how to prioritize.
That's good. It's good.
That's why the next day is so important.
Oh, absolutely.
It's good.
And I just want to, like, maybe if you've been in ministry for a while, I know you'll resonate with that. If you've been in leadership for a while, I know you'll resonate with that. If you're new to it, I just want to tell you, like, in 18 years of being a pastor, I can recall days in which there weren't significant problems, but there are no seasons of my life in which I was not dealing with significant problems. There was always something that required the vast majority of my effort, energy, and intellect in order to move it towards a better conclusion. And if I could just this isn't where I'm planning on headed because I wanted to get into that. I want to acknowledge though that part of that is just a gift.
Yeah.
Which may be crazy, but to say I am not wired to deal with the same thing every single day.
Yeah.
And to try to fix the same problem or to deal with no problem and just literally get up, go through the motion, return home. I'm not wired to do that. I would hate my life if there was nothing that I was progressing or moving on.
Same.
And so I think oftentimes we can get into a spot where we're frustrated with our life because the problems that we're dealing with, when the reality is that if there were no problems, we would be oh so bored with our life.
For sure. Which might be coming up in an episode near.
Yeah. Bethany, the other day, we were sitting on the beach, drove over on a Saturday.
Sounds terrible.
We're just we're sitting on the beach.
I'm sorry, that came out wrong. I meant beach, not Bethany.
No, I took it that way.
Okay.
So we're just sitting on the beach, and she goes, What if I, and she's joking, but I don't know, maybe she's not joking.
We should have her on.
She's saying, no, we should not. But she's there and she goes, what if I just lived here? What if I just lived at the beach and you could drive in on the weekends and preach and just live on the beach? And it's just it's joking, I think. It's fantasy life. But I just told her, I said, I would hate that life.
Yeah.
And I know that may sound ridiculous, you can't enjoy paradise. It was no, I want stuff to do.
Yeah.
I want to make stuff better.
Yeah.
So.
Nope, we've had the same, that's funny, we've had that same conversation.
You and Melanie, not you and I.
No, Melanie and I.
So I'm sitting on the beach with VJ the other day, and he just goes,
what if I just do online from here? Which
Kevin, we could live. Oh, you could.
Which I could. Literally. But on the same thing, that would kill me because I love being able to be a part of a team.
I guess I could preach from a hologram on the beach.
Yeah.
Slow way.
The team interaction and finding the way people become incredible at their job over time of knowing that they can be great.
There was a book
I
read in college by John Piper. Whatever, I don't need to comment on anyone, but he opened with this story of this couple that retired and lived on the beach and walked up and down the shore every day and picked up seashells. That was it. And then they eat in. That was their day. Every day. That's great once. Maybe once a year.
Yeah, maybe.
But if I'm doing that every day, there's nothing stressing me. There's nothing pressing me.
Yep.
And so I just want to acknowledge first off, hey, as we get into this, something is always wrong. The problems you deal with are also a gift.
Yeah.
There. So let's
so good.
So let's take a deeper dive into this as to why things are wrong. So you open up the pages of Scripture, and I know this is not a Christian podcast. This is a leadership podcast, but we're pastors. We work at churches. We don't hide that at all.
Nope.
So open up the pages of Scripture. Genesis 1. This is God created the heavens and the earth. God created all the things that exist then on the earth. And it says that when he created man and woman, he looked at man and he said, have dominion over the earth. That the command that was given to man was not to just be fruitful and multiply, but the command that was given to man was to have dominion over the creation, to rule. In paradise, the command was given to rule. There you go. Why did they need a ruler if everything was fine? From the very start of creation, there was a command to have dominion over the creation, to rule, to set it in the right direction, to clarify where it should go. And I know that will mess with some people, especially if you're Christian looking at this, your theology, but to say hey, if the command was always to rule to begin with, then there was a need for the rule. There is a need for order, even in the midst of even without struggle, even without sin, even without 1,000 other things, there is still a need for order, and one who brings things into order and doesn't allow it to drift into chaos.
Yeah.
And so I just want to clarify that as something I think that's really important that a lot of people miss, because they assume like Christians, we'll just deal with it theologically for just a second, and then we'll get back to the ideas here. Christians have this belief when they go to heaven that they do nothing. Is that you're given jobs in heaven. Like if you read the Bible, one of the things it clarifies, you are given a job. Why are you given a job? It's perfect. It's heaven. Well, there is still leadership that is needed to keep things from drifting into chaos. Even when things are perfect, there is still rule, dominion, leadership that is needed.
Good.
And so I just want you to acknowledge from the very beginning that this idea that everything will go right, not only is it not accurate for the life that you live in, but it's really ridiculous theology to begin with. I would challenge not just your expectation of your life, but I would challenge your beliefs about God to begin with, because I go, that is not part of what life was created or what life will eventually be, even in perfection, even in paradise.
So good.
So accepting, hey, not everything is always wrong.
Right.
But something
Yeah.
will need order.
Yeah.
Something will need ruled. Something will need drifted out of chaos and brought into actually what it was meant to be is going to be a part of it. So if we deal with some application stuff today, let's actually drift and descend into that. So to acknowledge, first off, things that we've repeated several times, you are there to solve problems. If there's no problems, there is no need for you.
Yep.
The reason why we have leaders is we have leaders to solve problems. Relieve yourself of the notion of the problem-free life.
That's so good. And I think the thing there too is that sometimes even if you think everything is going, like each area that you might be responsible for is going well, you should create opportunity, not for problems, but for advancement.
Yes.
That will actually help you discover the problem that you may not know about.
Yep.
Because you're actually advancing the vision or the mission.
Exactly.
Or both.
Yeah. Your growth will unearth problems.
That's right.
Anticipate
If you're not growing, that's a pretty good decision to know, or pretty good qualifier to know that you're not. That's why you don't have any problems.
If I can give a confession within that first thing of that you are there to solve problems, I used to have this really ridiculous legalistic view of my days off.
Oh.
And so like
Talk more.
church world, we take Friday off because we work all weekends, and that's just kind of how it goes. And so like when I was first into ministry, I was whooped. Like I just didn't have the stamina for the work ethic that was needed in those moments. I don't blame the job. I didn't have the stamina for it.
That's good.
At the time. And so I'd roll into my day off and I'd be like, I'd do nothing. And it'd be like 1:30 and I'd get a call. Someone needed me, had a question about something. I'd just be like, day's ruined.
That's amazing.
It's so stupid.
But it's true.
Like looking back at it now, I just be like, I just want a 24-hour period with nothing to happen.
Yeah.
And then like the tiniest thing would happen. And like sometimes it wasn't even church stuff. Sometimes it was just people from the church.
Right.
Like I don't mean as like church work.
Yeah.
It's just someone who knew me from
Yeah.
the church. They'd call and have a question. I'd just be like, I can't rest.
Yeah. Love God. Love people, except at 1:30 on Fridays.
So
not then.
It's so ridiculous and honestly even embarrassing. But I know other people.
Yes.
Other people struggle with
You're
that.
not the only
Yeah.
one. Everyone has had that in their life because
Yeah.
you said you didn't have the stamina.
Exactly.
Spiritual maturity, all the
Yes.
things because of that. Yeah, for sure.
Now though those things happen, and I am far more grateful for the time that I had that was restful. I'm not just like, I'll be like, man, I just had an hour where I didn't have to do anything.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And I know, I think what happens is like, we've already dealt with a lot of theology in this episode, so there's no reason not to deal with a little more.
Yeah.
People become legalistic about the idea of Sabbath, about taking a day off, instead of viewing it as a grace.
Yeah.
A grace is a gift.
Yes.
And I understand it's a command, but it's still a gift within that command.
Yeah.
I am concerned about people who don't ever take time off.
Oh, sure.
I just want to acknowledge that. Like, I think that is important that you take time off. But as soon as there's an interruption and inconvenience because of someone, and all of a sudden you're ticked off.
Yep.
Because you got a text.
Yep.
I was like, chill out, man.
Yep. Something's always wrong.
Second piece on here, application wise, I would encourage you, don't get beaten down by the same problems.
Oh, that's good.
There will always be something wrong, but it should not always be the same thing.
That's great.
And so this is kind of like that other side of the tension point of what we're talking about, and to say like there's always something wrong, but if it's always the same thing, that means there's an issue. And it could be a couple things. Let me use like people as an example, personnel, staff that you're hiring. If someone is always leaving the same role 8 months later, it could be one of two things. It could be, well, I did two, so there's four. Could be one of two things.
Yeah.
Sorry if you're listening. I just made poor motions, counted poorly with my hand.
He used the right fingers, though.
It could be one of two things. It could be you're hiring poorly.
Yeah.
And it's you that's the issue because you don't know how to hire.
Yeah.
Or it could actually be your expectations for the role.
Yeah.
Like some roles, people aren't going to be in more than a year or 2 years. Like the nature of the role is to launch people into different things. And I just know people are like, youth pastors are church world perennially known for this. And I am grateful to have the longevity we've had here at Highland Park and the longevity we had at Be Hope and youth pastors in different roles. But I say like, there aren't many people who are going to be in youth ministry for 40 years. Yeah. There are some, and they're phenomenal. Yeah. But that is not the nature of the role.
Right.
And so like, if every single time someone from your staff leaves and the nature of the role is to launch, why are you frustrated?
Yes.
Like change your expectation on it.
Yeah.
And so if you're always dealing with the same problems, what is off is either you or your expectations, but it's you either way. So just accept that on there.
You said something really interesting there, just real quick, and I want you just to spend another 30 seconds on it, which is, hey, don't get beaten down by the same problems, but if you are, then it's an issue.
Yeah.
Just explain what you're talking about, the difference between these problems and an issue. Because sometimes people get those confused or think they're the same thing.
Keep talking. Keep talking.
No,
I'm with you. No, I like what you're saying.
Because there's problems that we're all dealing with, but an issue is the longevity of a problem. Yes. Now it's happening over and over. It's not just a problem. It's an issue. But talk more about what you mean in the context of defining those words.
Yeah. So I would just say is like there's natural pain points that will come up that are predictable, understandable.
Problems.
Yep. And so we go there. But if the same thing keeps happening over and over again, then all of a sudden we go, this is not a problem that needs to be fixed. This is a deeper issue that's at stake here.
There we go.
And so when you keep seeing the same repeated things, it's either your expectation that's off or your ability to handle the thing.
Yeah. It's no longer a one-on-one with someone as a problem. It's now, hey, I need to gather a bunch of maybe not an intervention, but you know what I mean. There's a bigger discussion around the issue, and you need to fix it.
Absolutely.
Great.
And then here's the third thing that I would add, and this is going to be a struggle, and I want to clarify what I'm meaning because, well, I struggle with this. And what I've got written here is don't add to the struggle by solving tomorrow's problems today.
Oh, that's good.
And if I could just clarify it for a little bit, like maybe don't add to the struggle by feeling tomorrow's problems today. Part of your role as a leader is to solve problems that are further out. Part of your role in leadership is to look ahead, to see what's coming, and to help keep us like clear from stalling and getting stuck by solving problems in advance. But the nature of what I end up doing is I feel those issues before they're ever there.
Yep.
And I feel them like we've talked some on here. Like I have only let a couple people go in my life. And by the time I walked into the room, I was emotionally neutral because I had lived every emotion of that long before I ever walked into the room.
Yep.
And some of that's a strength, but some of that can also cripple you.
Absolutely.
Because instead of being in a moment with your team where you're celebrating all the things that are happening, you're already stressed out about what's coming a year from now.
Yeah.
And I would just say, like, you can live in the reality of solving the problems in advance without living in the emotion of actually dealing with all those problems. And my issue is I do both.
It's good.
And I would just encourage to say, hey, don't add to that struggle by feeling tomorrow's problems today. You can solve them, but you don't have to feel them yet.
That's great. Great word. What else you got? We're about done with time
here, man. That's it.
Cool. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us today. Episode 193, Something is Always Wrong. If you're new to the podcast or haven't yet subscribed, it means the world to us if you did that now. Also post about it, rate and review or both. You won't believe how that helps get this podcast in the hands so many more leaders just like you, trying to get better like us. We'd love to hear your stories of how the podcast is working in your life and business. If you have a story, just DM us on any of the social media platforms. Send a message to us on leadinghope.online. We would love to hear from you. And remember, everyone has 20 minutes to learn to become a better leader. Make it count. Woo!